It's Monday, which means it's Ruin My Monday, where I talk ancient history, artifacts, ruins, and more to make your Monday suck less. Now, I know I do this series in short form content on social media, but I wanted to start elaborating on some Mondays where we talk ruins, artifacts, and more. And because we have just passed May the 4th be with you, and the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith has just been re-released in theaters. Yes, I did go and see it. I wanted to talk Tikal, Star Wars, and archaeology. So come along with me as we look at the rebel base of Yavin 4 that we only see from the outside for a few seconds in A New Hope. Because yes, this place is real and deserves a deeper look. And I'll be doing a little bit of my eye makeup today as I get ready with you guys, because my name is Dr. Teninger Kellenberger and I bring the ancient world to you as we look in the jungle this time in the realm of the Jedi. Now, of course, Yavin 4 is the rebel base that we don't really see until quite a bit through A New Hope. And of course, in the movie, you may recall that we see the Millennium Falcon flying right over the area, and that there is in fact a rebel who is kind of tracking the Millennium Falcon as they come in to land. And as he's tracking the Millennium Falcon in, you can see a few temples in the background. So where is this, and is it real? So, of course, it's real. Yes, this site does actually exist today. It is very much real. And this was actually filmed at the ancient Mayan site known as Tikal. And the site of Tikal is actually located in modern-day Guatemala. Okay, but where is the rebel standing if we can see two temples out near the horizon? Where is he positioned? We know that too. He is actually standing on what we refer to as Temple 4 from the site of Tikal. And for those wondering, of course, I have a map out of the site, but Temple 4 is more on the western side of the site. And this is where he's standing because we can see a few temples in the background. And maybe wondering, well, how did they film this? Well, for the heavy camera and lighting equipment, they schlepped those puppies up to the top of the temple using a pulley system, and a guard was actually stationed on top of the temple every single night to guard the equipment for 4 days with a shotgun, which is just crazy to me. I don't know why. It seems very Indiana Jones-like, and I love it. And what else can we see? Because really, when it shows up in A New Hope, it's only there for less than 20 seconds in the entirety of the movie. But the site of Tikal is worth more than 20 seconds, right? We got to dive into these temples because they play a massive role in the history and understanding of the larger site of Tikal, the rulers, politics, art, and more. So if we look out onto the horizon, like our rebel friend here, we can see from closest to furthest, Temple 3, then Temple 2, then Temple 1 is going to be the furthest in the distance. Temple 3 and Temple 2, their backs are facing us, but the front facade of Temple 1, which sits right across the Grand Plaza from Temple 2, faces us. So we see the front facade of that temple. So what do we know about Temple 4 besides being a great lookout point for one of our rebel friends? Well, Temple 4 is actually believed to be one of the tallest temples ever erected by the Maya. And back in the day, wouldn't you know, tourists used to scramble up the sides of the temple to get to the top to see everything. And this was because there wasn't really great stairs or anything. So tourists used to grab onto branches, roots, and anything to help bring them to the top because the front stair area was a little crumbled. But now, you know, with all the tourism and everything, there is wooden stairs that, you know, you can hike up to now to get to the top, which makes the long climb much easier. And another tangent, if you ever get a chance to go to the Yucatan or Mexico or even Guatemala, take the chance and go. The ruins are magnificent. Tikal, Palenque, these are all on my bucket list. And a few years ago, I was actually lucky enough to go to the site of Koba, which is in the Riviera Maya, and you can still climb the temple there, but these stairs that, go up to the top, one, they're very, very thin, like very narrow. But because of all of the years of tourists coming up and down, the middle portion of the stairs is extremely polished. And if you've ever been to Europe or anything, it's kind of the same thing where the marble there just gets so slippery because it's been walked on for so long, and actually, fell pretty hard when I was in Madrid a few years ago. Just slipped, feet came right up and just fell right on my butt when we were in Madrid. But it felt like the same thing at Copa. But they have this long rope to help you climb up at Copa. But that was still pretty scary. I had to get down the temple. I wasn't going to go in the middle because I knew I was just going to tumble right down. So I went off to the side and just scooted down one stair at a time because I know my strength in this world and I needed to take it one at a time. Otherwise, I would have fallen right on my butt. Okay, but Temple 4. Temple 4 sits at 65 meters tall, which that's pretty high up there. And up here, you can really see everything on top of the tree line. And what's crazy is when we were at Koba, when you were at the top of the temple and are seeing everything above the tree line, the temperature up there is drastically different than when you are in the jungle. It is way less humid up there. It was incredible. Not only was the view incredible, but the breeze, the air circulation was impeccable up there. And of course, what do you see on top of Temple 4? But the other temples, the other pyramid structures that too stand above the tree line like titans in the jungle. So this temple was built in 741 CE and is one of the tallest temples constructed in the New World. And Temple 4 was actually built to mark the reign of Tikal's 27th ruler. And their 27th ruler was Yikin Chan Ka'awali. Now, their kings, their rulers, their lords, the title that they have is actually a Hao. So rather than king or lord or, pharaoh from Egypt or anything like that, the Mayans for the site of Tikal used a Hao. And he is also referred to as ruler B. And with scholarship and archaeology, some believe that this temple was actually built after his death and would have therefore functioned as a funerary temple. And because of that, archaeologists believe that his tomb and tomb structure and everything, it would actually lie underneath the temple, but it is currently undiscovered. But there is some belief that it would be right underneath. And overall, he was a pretty successful leader for the site of Tikal, brought a lot of prosperity. But moving down with all of the other temples, we get to Temple 3. And this is actually known as the Temple of the Jaguar Priest. And of course, this too was an important temple for Tikal. Now, this temple was actually built around 810 CE and stands at 55 meters tall. And this temple is believed to have been in honor of the king Dark Sun. But not much is actually known about this ruler. But what a cool name, Dark Sun. Ugh. Spectacular. So, Dark Sun may actually be the son of Nun Ahol Kanich, but we are not too sure because this is occurring in the 9th century CE, and this is believed to be one of the last temples actually constructed at the site of Tikal, because by the end of the 9th century, because of archaeological evidence and historical records, the site of Tikal really begins to decline and will later become abandoned. So this one's a little bit more questionable of who it belongs to, and if it does belong to Dark Sun, who is he? Alrighty, moving forward, Temple 2. Temple 2 is also known as the Temple of the Masks, and this is just another complete sidebar, but you may be wondering, why is it called Temple of the Masks? Why is it called this? Why is it named this? It's because when archaeologists are excavating and digging, and we see this a lot with Pompeii and Herculaneum with great examples of the naming techniques, is a lot of times when archaeologists are excavating and making incredible discoveries, whatever is found in that house, that temple, wherever, they are going to name it after that. So Temple of the Masks, found masks. If you look at Pompeii, it's going to kind of be the same thing, where it could be the house of the golden bracelet, the house of the small fountain, the house of blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be something like that. And we name it this way because we have found something that is that. And this temple is actually named as such because of the facade on the outside of the temple. So two masks, which are now heavily eroded, are actually on top of the temple's platform, and they are on the facade. And this has also led to the naming of the Temple of the Masks. But, fun fact, the Temple of the Masks, Temple 2, is actually one of the best restored temples at the site of Tikal. It stands at 38 meters tall and was built by Ahau Hassa Chan Kawil I. And he actually built this temple in honor of his wife. And his wife is Lady Kalahun Unemo. And her name actually translates or means 12 macaw tails. And within Temple 2, there was actually a sculpted wooden lintel that bears the portrait of a female figure who is royal. And this has led archaeologists to believe that this is in fact a representation of his wife, whom the temple was built for. And it's believed that it was actually built during his reign, and he reigned at the end of the 7th century into the early 8th century. For specific dates, we're looking at 682 through 734 CE. For my curious little chronology kitty cats. And Temple 2 faces Temple 1 across from the Grand Plaza. So going to the other side of the plaza, we get Temple 1. And Temple 1 also has another alternative name. It is also known as the Temple of the Great Jaguar. And of course, this was also built by Ahau Hassa Chan Kawil I. And this temple was constructed as a funerary monument to him. And it was likely completed right after his death in 734 CE. And we actually have a tomb in here. Yes, we know that he was buried in here. And his tomb has actually been labeled as Burial 116. And it is actually a large vaulted chamber deep within the pyramid. And over half of the burial chamber is occupied by the masonry bench that actually supports the king's body and holds all of his jewelry. The king's remains were actually laid out over a woven mat. And as this is the tomb and burial of a king, it came with some really great burial goods that were recovered, including jaguar skins, Jedi objects, painted ceramics, rare spondylus shells, pearls, mirrors, and more. Truly beautiful stuff. And his body, of course, was also covered with jewelry, including a really beautiful necklace that had massive beads on it. And also accompanying the king's remains in his tomb were a series of over 30 human bones that were inscribed with hieroglyphic text. And these were actually arranged by the king's right leg. Specifically, they were recovered at his right foot. And one of these inscribed bones actually bears the hieroglyphic text of some of Tikal's allies. And some of their allies include Palenque, Copan, and more. Other bones with inscribed hieroglyphics on them also denote the king's parentage as well, so his royal lineage and everything. Now, while these temples only appeared in A New Hope for less than 20 seconds, these ruins truly make you feel as though you're stepping into a different world, that of the Maya. So that is where I wanted to leave you for this little episode of Ruin My Monday, where I talk ancient artifacts, ruins, and more to make your Monday suck less. I know we just passed May the 4th, and I hope everybody out there was celebrating with that. But yeah, I really wanted to get on here and talk about a little bit of the archaeology and history of the temples that we actually see in A New Hope, because yes, it is based on a real site, that of Tikal. And yeah, I hope to do more archaeology, ancient history videos that have ties to, of course, Star Wars. I did a whole video on solo leveling, and yeah, I hope to do a lot more, but let me know what I should do below for the next episode of Ruin My Monday. As always, keep your books open, stay curious, and I'll see you guys next time on the Dirt Diaries.